Attorney Bederow has a number item as well.
Mr. Bederow.
Thank you, Judge.
Honestly, go fuck yourself, sir. You don't say that, okay? You don't lose a trial where a jury acquits someone and finds overwhelmingly not guilty and say, I gave my sincere obligation to look into this, and I'm telling you all I saw when she's guilty. Again, respectfully, go fuck yourself.
Swear again like that. That was, no, I mean, whatever. That was, I shouldn't have done that.
A few moments later.
You, as a prosecutor, have got to be out of your fucking mind.
Nose.
Dude, Jimmy, look at those ears.
The ears don't bother me as much.
No, I don't trust a man. I don't trust a man with a lobe like that. No,
really,
not a fucking chance.
The mouth is butthole to me.
Very thin, paper thin.
The nose.
Oh, the nose.
The brows.
Well, listen, I will tell you though, I kind of like a fucked up nose on a guy.
I like a big old honker. I like a big nose.
Big old nose. Give me that big bitch. You know?
Yeah,
like, I'm into it.
Come over here, cluck cluck.
Yeah.
I see some chickens that went moving on up in my biz, cluck cluck. Running. You gotta be with the kids, the kids, the kids, the kids, the kids, kids.
And I go, oop, clutch, clench, kegel. We did it all. And I go, oh, and what happened? And they go, well, we just got 4,000 plus pages, bitch. And I said, stop it. Show me it. Take me to Unimpound Town immediately, if not sooner. So what happens?
The bitch is here.
Why are you at a football game? Are you a Fonz correspondent?
Well, no, because it's only for men over 30. Okay? Have a great night, boys. Fuck off.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me.
Hey, Blues Clues, motherfucker.
Good morning, lovies. Happy Sunday, December 7th, 2025. We are gathered here today for a Sunday service with our favorite, our emotional support attorney to the stars, the stripes, and the United States of America. It is attorney Mark Bederow. He is here to break down all of the Commonwealth fuckery afoot, and we are here for it. Shall we also discuss maybe what happened on our bye week? Because somebody was at the Monday Night Football game, witnessed a miracle with one Silver Fox, Tim Bradle, also catch up on life, and then send us off for the day in the best possible way. I love you. Thank you for being here. And let's bring on, without further ado, the man of the hour. Good morning, Mr. Bederow.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay.
Great.
Been up for 3 hours, ready to go.
Oh, up for 3 hours. That can't relate.
I get up early.
I know you do. I know you do. How many cups of coffee have you had thus far? 3?
This is the end of the pot right here. When we take our coffee break, we'll be on moving over to the Nespresso machine for individual cups at that point.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. So I did want to get into, we took a bye week last week, and you had a kind of a big deal of your high school reunion.
I did. That was kind of a trip. Yeah.
Tell me everything.
Well, I don't think I should tell you everything, but it's always good to see some old close friends that you haven't seen for a long time, and other ones who have essentially become, Facebook type friends, people but reconnected when Facebook became a thing, but you don't see except for these kinds of things. But it was a lot of fun. Good to see a lot of people. And, yes, there were a lot of people asking about, oh my God, what the trial and, Cameron Reed, Turtle Boy, State Police, all that. So it was very telling to see just how, I don't live in Massachusetts anymore, so it's different and it's a national case, but the level of interest and obsession and people who actually knew and follow everything was pretty stunning, actually. So, but, awesome. The reunion was fun. Saw some, as I said, people Friday night, Saturday night. for a couple other days. The trip was cut short because of court, was transitioned to Zoom, and
Right.
capped it off with a nice Patriots ass kicking in the freezing cold, and was out of there the next day. So all in all, it was good trip.
I love that. And it was like one of the best games. I think that everybody who had maybe been a denier of Drake May or what the Patriots team is now, it was a little bit, maybe they shut up a bit after.
Yeah, I mean the Giants are, they suck. So
Yeah.
I mean, a win by a large margin was expected, but there was one pass. It was actually a touchdown in particular that was just dropping a dime in a bucket from 50 yards away. I mean, his deep ball is insane, but it was great time. Stadium was alive. I usually go to a game or two every year throughout, the past several years. And it was nice to feel the stadium like it was in the Brady era for the first time. And as long as I can remember, I mean, the last few years, it's been just kind of a joke going. But this game was, it's Monday night, which gives it a little sizzle.
Oh, yeah.
A punt return for a touchdown, very nice. Blowout, very nice.
Love it.
It helps having really nice seats too. Which, by the way, we're not. I mean, the Twitter people are just out of control. Those seats were not from legal funds, for what it's worth. Those seats were gifted to me by a very generous client who is a close personal friend of high level Patriots ownership, and was able to gift those seats. So no legal fees or fund fees were expended. So give me a break.
Yeah, that's like a terrible thing to insinuate, but you expect nothing less,
I expect nothing less. It's about as harmless as two friends going to a football game, having a good time, and no more, no less. So, move on and find something else to complain about, which apparently there's plenty, but
apparently there is plenty to complain about. I did want to say there was nothing that brought me as much joy as just seeing, because I know, or I don't know really, but the relationship between you and Tim is just I know that you are colleagues and everything, but to see that and to see how happy genuinely you could see it in the picture of just a couple of, I don't know, whatever.
Look, it's fortunate. It works. It's an arranged marriage. It's not, no prior relationship, no referral connection. So, those kinds of things can be risky when you have a bunch of lawyers with egos and reputations and whatever. And fortunately for all of us, it works fine. Everyone is, rowing in the same direction, likes each other, has a good time. We had a nice meal of food before the game at Davio's, which was very nice, as you know. Enjoyed the game, enjoyed the company, and that's it. So yeah, no, it's great.
That's awesome. And was there anything else? How was we didn't talk actually. How was your Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was quiet this year, very quiet, or as usually it's kind of bigger. This year, people were kind of scattered around, so a little bit less. And then I was on the road, Friday morning to head out there. But I mean, for us, for Thanksgiving this year, I guess the highlight was, Stranger Things. So watching some of that.
So I haven't seen, okay, that's huge that you say
I'm a little
this.
disappointed in it, by the way. It's not.
Oh.
Yeah, a little bit. I enjoyed it, but it's getting a little ridiculous. But, I guess you have to suspend reality.
Well, yeah, it is Stranger Things. Do you know what I mean? Also, shocking revelation. I did want to say that I had a confession, and I should have never said it, but I may have participated in some Dungeons and Dragons play as a youth. Okay.
We all did.
You all did. Thank you. Because some people said that maybe it was an abnormal thing that I did and that they knew I was a dork, but to find out that I was actually.
I will say, and again, this isn't meant to be sexist. I don't recall growing up any girls in our playing. No, it's not a thing other than I don't remember that. But it's okay. I'm gonna, of course, looking forward to it when the next round comes out at Christmas. But right now, I am 1,000 times more interested in Pluribus, which is the Vince Gilligan Breaking Bad guy. Just incredible. Yeah, if you like sophisticated TV that you have to watch and pay attention and think, I can't recommend it enough. It's so bizarre. It's just classic Vince Gilligan, slow burn, wild. Look at that. You disappeared.
Yeah, I'm not. I went to go get my thing. So what is it? I'm so sorry. What is it called?
It's called Pluribus. It's
Okay.
Ray Seahorn, who was Kim Wexler from Better Call Saul.
Okay.
It's made by Breaking Bad. It's in Albuquerque. It's the whole thing. And there's some Easter eggs even. If you're into Breaking Bad. And the other show I'm watching, and then I'll stop with the TV stuff, which I'm about 4 or 5 episodes in, and I really like it. The Beast in Me. I like that a lot. Incredible cast. Claire Danes, who's probably
I love Claire Danes.
probably the best actress, like talent-wise, from our generation. She's just incredible. The way she plays somebody who has clear anxiety and whatever. She's so good at it. Matthew Rhys, and of course Jonathan Banks, who also has the Breaking Bad connection. Mike Ehrmantraut. So that's on Netflix, and I'm very much enjoying that as well. The Beast in Me, it's called.
The Beast in Me. Now, okay, give me just a tiny baby synopsis about, like, okay, so she has anxiety. Claire Danes is in it. We know that there's that, but what is it like?
That's not like the key. It's just it's her nuance of acting. She is an author who had a tragedy where she lost her son in an accident, and it kind of stopped her ability to write, and she kind of got writer's block and was just kind of struggling. And she lives in Oyster Bay, which is a beautiful area on Long Island. And her next door neighbor is a real estate titan who moves out from Manhattan next door, but he's kind of a notorious sketchy figure. Right now we don't know how sketchy or not. The signs are there that he is. He was suspected in killing his wife, although never charged. He was investigated for all kinds of financial fraud, and he's just kind of a weirdo. And he moves next door, and he's trying to get her to agree to build an easement for a running path. It's really good. And then she decides, I want to write. She hates him because he's obnoxious.
Yeah.
And she wants to now throw away her boring book and write a book about him. And she's getting into the weeds of that. And it's just, is he a bad guy? Is he not? And it's getting perilous and dangerous. And
awesome. Well, that's definite. That's for me.
But but just real quick, it's like a cat and mouse game, but it's Claire Danes and Matthew Rhys, which is actually interesting because it's merging 2 series which were on at the same time and very similar, but they were in different series. Homeland and The Americans, right? He was in The Americans, and she, of course, was the star of Homeland. And now The Beast in Me. Watch it. Yeah. And I have not finished it, so I have no idea where it's going. I'm just like 4 episodes.
And did you say to me that it is a so it's on Netflix? You told me that, and it's one season, like there's one completed season.
I assume it's a mini series of 7 or 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
It doesn't strike me as something that would go beyond as a continuing series beyond that, but I mean, who knows? You see that all the time.
Okay.
And I just said something. My Siri talking to me. All right, go ahead. Never mind.
No worries. So I think that I will definitely be looking into that, and I want to watch it.
Pluribus, you've got to watch Pluribus. If you like intelligent TV, Pluribus is on. It's incredible.
And what platform is that on?
Apple TV.
Apple. Well, you and the Apple. You love the Apple TV. I have a subscription, I think. Apple TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, I will do that. And that's is that a one season? Just asking, sorry. And then I'll get over it. But is that?
Pluribus, no, you can tell again, the way anything that Vince Gilligan does is a slow burn. Again, it's intelligent TV. I mean, it's not every episode is like a brick in the wall to get someplace. They're not all exciting with cliffhangers and whatnot. You have to invest in the larger picture. And I would imagine Pluribus feels like 3, 4, 5 seasons to get to where the hell is this going? Because the premise of that show is bonkers, but in a great way. I mean, it's one of those shows where you don't even fully understand what's happening and you're trying to unpack it as it's slowly burning. So again, it's not a show where you're scrolling through your phone while you're watching. You have to be locked in.
All right. Well, I like that. Keep my focus. Okay. Keep it. I will say for the first 4 episodes, that was a huge, like Stranger Things has been a huge thing for my family, my daughters, me, like we are obsessed with it. The scene or what has stood with me for the first 4 episodes, I know we're getting our next dump from the Duffer brothers. Yeah, right. That's their names. Yeah. But, was the scene, and sorry, spoiler alert, lovies, of Mrs. Wheeler. Okay. Mrs. Wheeler in that kitchen. I blacked out. I left my body. I go, where's my queen? When she is like, and attacking it with like, it's just so 80s mother, right? To be like, there's nothing that's coming out. Like, she's saying that there is, it's not happening and you're fine. Come to find out, there actually is a Demogorgon in your home coming to murk you. And then she fights back with a broken bottle of wine and kicks the shit, makes the Demogorgon bleed. And then, she takes one for the team and she's on the floor. And I was just like, I talk about like a cinematic masterpiece that I was crying. It was a whole thing. Nancy comes in, I'm losing it. No one gives a shit, but I just thought that was tremendous. And it showed her strength to like fight to the fuck. You know what I mean? Like she fought so hard.
I'm going the other way on this. I thought it was ridiculous. It's great for, Mrs. Wheeler and, finding her power and fighting back and, all those shows where they would show her just guzzling wine. Okay, it actually served a purpose, I guess.
Yeah.
Up until then, you've been led to believe over 4 seasons that these Demogorgons will kill anything in their path and just do all, leave nothing left to whatever. And all of a sudden, when it comes to the Wheeler parents, they just, take the girl who, aged 5 years in 2 months, which is ridiculous. It is what it is. I understand the filming. And they miraculously just don't attack anymore. And I don't know. To me, it's become, you have to suspend reality. I get it. And it is a Dungeons and Dragons fantasy, Stranger Things. I get it. It's sci-fi, whatever.
Yeah.
And I love it. And I watch it and I'll watch it the night it comes out and binge it with the kids and all that. But it's become cartoonish. And they keep adding these characters of these kids and it feels forced. This is my view. If it's, like they're like creating roles that, the dipshit kid, I don't get it. Honestly, that just feels like a throw in, that Lucas's sister, who they just like, it feels like it's so forced and she's funny, but the scenes she is, but they're so forced and I don't know. I'm losing it a little bit with it.
Yeah.
I'm losing
we're losing the plot. And it's just like I think that if you're a diehard, right? Or if you are somebody who is like a constitutionalist to the Demogorgon, like to the original plot and everything, you can see that this season is just really going outside the lines. And like now we're in the dreams and all the Max shit. And it's like, yeah, I get it. But I can't help it. I've waited for it, and I
Yeah, no, I mean,
always love it.
it's entertaining. It's just it's not on the level that I previously had it. That's all.
Totally agree. All right, so now that we've covered those topics, I would like to get into what's been going on in a couple of cases that maybe we know and that we have covered or we had followed for quite some time. And Brian Walsh was a huge, in my opinion, part of this week. They've wrapped up day 5 from Monday through Friday, and things that came out in the first week of this trial has been kind of mind-blowing to me. I knew that they were going to go down after the defense rather, and Tipton was going to have to curate their defense to however it was going to make sense, which I didn't know how they were going to get there, since Brian Walsh had entered a plea of guilty on the 2 lesser included charges, but is still, fighting the homicide charge. But in the opening statement, when he said that, when Larry Tipton got up and was like, oh yeah, Anna Walsh died of natural causes on New Year's, and Brian Walsh was so discombobulated, right? How could this have happened? This 39-year-old tip-top shape runner, mother of 3, drops dead in the bed. She actually just falls asleep, allegedly, dies, and then he goes to touch her, right? He goes to like wake her up. He's like, babe, and she rolls off the bed. These are the details that are coming in opening statement. There is no rebuttal from the Commonwealth because there, unfortunately, God rest her soul, there has been no body found of Anna Walsh. And so they didn't address cause of death or anything because they can't do that, right? Where do you feel in a believability or in the defense's opening statement? Where do you feel they landed with that? And on an A through F scale, what would you say he did?
Well, the believability is 0.00001%. However, that's better than literally 0, but it's all on a scale of relativity. It's nonsense, clearly, for a lot of reasons. However, if the man wants a trial and doesn't want to plead guilty to murder, then he gets his trial. And so the defense is doing what they can. And I think we might have used this terminology, they are admitting what they must and denying what they can. But when you plug in the common sense factor of it, it doesn't make any sense. But at the end of the day, Walsh's attorneys are trying to convince the jury that they're going to serve them a nice filet mignon. And the reality is they're giving them, low grade ground beef. They have to deal with what they have to deal with, but I would be stunned if it works. They're doing a good job. It's a professional trial. The lawyers on both sides are professional. The judge is professional. It feels like a healthier process to watch than perhaps some of the other nonsense that everyone's familiar with watching that way. But I mean, look, as I said to a reporter a couple of weeks ago, the likelihood that Brian Walsh is going to have to testify is much higher than you would have thought previously. And at this point, they've committed him to testifying, and he is going to be slaughtered. He is going to be sliced, diced, eviscerated 3 times over, because the defense on its face is ridiculous. I mean, it defies all logic and common sense. And at some point in summation, the prosecutor is going to get up and say, let's not just go over the evidence that I presented that shows you why this guy is guilty, but let's spend a few minutes talking about the defense hypothesis and why it can't be. And the reality is, a natural, unexplained death in bed of a 30-something healthy whatever she is, young woman who is struggling in her marriage, is ready to leave, is stressing about this. And upon finding, your beloved wife and no marital problems or anything dead, naturally, what Brian Walsh did is what any normal, sane person would do, is go to the internet and figure out how to dismember, chop, conceal, and dispose of. I mean, that's and then lie to the police and then send pretend text messages about how you doing, while, I mean, that's just absurd. And the idea, well, I panicked. No, what most people would do would call 911.
Yes.
And say, now, even if you think something has happened and there's no movement and the person has expired, that's what a normal person would do.
Right.
So, but again, they say there's an unexplained death. That's just denying what you can, because it can't literally be disproven, because there's no evidence of the actual homicidal act. There is no evidence that she was stabbed 57 times here or there. There's no autopsy. There's no medical data because there's no body.
Right.
So what do? One way to do it would be say, well, somebody else did it. Well, that's ridiculous. More ridiculous than the, unexplained death, which I would suggest is highly ridiculous. But again, what are they supposed to do? The guy wants his trial. This is what it's going to be. The only way they have any chance, and I'm not watching this, by the way, I'm seeing, I read articles, whatever. I'm not literally, I've seen none of it. The only interesting part of this trial to me so far would be the jury selection, because that's where this case for this Fakakta defense, which I don't blame the lawyers, by the way. The lawyers, by all accounts, are doing a spectacular job with what they have. But the only chance that there's even a shot in hell would be, I would love to see the jury selection in this case, because, in jury selection, as I've said before, in my view, it serves two purposes, right? Brainwash and get rid of the kooks. And if they did that, could they get one who's going to lock in on, well, there's, we don't know how she was killed, so it's possible, who knows? But I just don't know.
Yeah. I also found it kind of interesting, speaking of the medical side, because that's what speaks to me always, was that, Anna Walsh did have A+ rating for her life insurance, right? That she had had physical exams, all these things. So it's not like somebody who, again, is, maybe hasn't gone to the doctors in 10 years. Like, this was kind of a recent thing.
It makes sense. And that's by the way, that's a two-pronged problem.
Mm-hmm.
Is defense. Number one, what you just said, it lessens the likelihood or plausibility of that this healthy woman who's, physical and conscious to her health just goes to bed and dies. I mean, could it happen?
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
And number two, life insurance that goes to Brian Walsh. That's what, people call motive, amongst other things. And this is a guy who was on his way to prison. I mean, look, he knew about the affair clearly. I think the evidence of that is pretty clear. He did all these things. Nothing he did is consistent with, I had a good marriage and I was concerned about what happened to my wife, and I'm going to, just what the hell, if she's dead, I might as well try to get the money and, have her dead and no one will ever know. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And, he obviously was not even thinking about his kids, which is another problem I would imagine is going to come up at some point if it hasn't already, which is, his first reaction is, it's bad enough if the children's mother passes away tragically, but, as the loving father, naturally what I'm going to do is chop her up into 100 pieces and have no recovery, no chance to do anything, lie to my kids and use my kid's iPad looking up all this terrible stuff. Look, this is all ridiculous. I don't, this trial to me, again, other than jury selection, won't be interesting until he testifies, and that will be fascinating to watch. The cross-examination, which I assume would be very thorough and very good, even allowing for the fact that, traditionally prosecutors don't cross-examine as well as defense attorneys for the simple reason they don't do it as often.
Oh,
But, this is not your garden variety Norfolk DA prosecutor. I mean, he clearly seems to be at a different level, both in terms of competence, professionalism, skill, and whatnot, than perhaps what some people have seen in, the other famous case.
absolutely. And I have one question from, like, if you could put your prosecutor's hat on, your Manhattan prosecutor's hat on, with not having the body, right? And understandable that there is a absolute disconnect for, I think, 99.9% of people to say that there was a panic that led to a dismemberment and a disposal of one's wife. It is not something that I would be able to, bite that off and take it as this is enough to not convict somebody. But with that small amount of wiggle room, and the Commonwealth not having the cause of death, not having anything there, and there is no body at all, do you think that could desensitize, or has it in the past in other cases? I can't really think off the top of my head of if there wasn't a body.
All right. Well,
find it, like, does that make people less, like, somehow less able to get there to that?
No. As far as being sensitized, look at the Google searches. I mean, look at the video of this guy shopping at Home Depot, like with large knives and this and that. I mean, the guy is an admitted monster. Okay, whether he committed the murder or not, he admits to disposing of his wife, lying to the police. None of this makes any sense. So he doesn't get the sympathy factor. As far as, convicting people of murder without a body, there are two well-known cases in Manhattan, one of which was when I was there, and one of which was after I left, and was prosecuted 20 years later by a close personal, one of my best friends. Looked them up. The first one, Sante Kimes, is the famous, killed Irene Silverman over her Upper East Side townhouse sometime in the late 1990s. Her and her grifter son, there you go, there's that word, Sante and Kenneth Kimes. They were no
How do I
body.
spell their last name?
Kimes.
Oh, I did. I spelled it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other one, look up, is even perhaps more interesting, is the one that I was talking about, my friend, is Dr. Robert Bierbaum. He was alleged to have accused his wife in like 1985 and didn't get tried until 2005. And he dumped her body out over the Atlantic Ocean because he was a licensed pilot. They never found a body, and they had to do tests about whether it was humanly possible to fly a plane alone and throw a 120-pound body in a suitcase out and not lose control of the plane. And they had to do experiments and all these things. And there were but again, so how do they prove the case? Circumstantially and common sense. In the Berenbaum case, they had ample evidence that he was abusive for years, and she just disappeared. And it took 20 years for them that case was rejected for years. And they had this cold case squad in the Manhattan DA's office in the NYPD, and they brought him to justice, and they did it. So it clearly can be done as long as there's, not to get all TV, but motive, opportunity, common sense, circumstantial evidence. But I mean, look at Walsh. I mean, what would make you believe he didn't do it?
Right.
I mean, if you kind of work backwards, I guess the only way you would have to even suggest that there's any shred of reasonable doubt is to buy into this concept. Well, we don't know that he killed her, and it's possible he just found her and then just panicked and decided to chop her up and do this and lie to the police and send fake messages and whatnot. So, I mean, is there literal direct proof that he murdered her? Probably not. But I mean, at what point are you suspending reality? But again, this is why jury selection is the key. How are you brainwashing jurors on the concept of reasonable doubt? I mean, if you get someone, again, brainwash, get rid of the kooks. If you get someone who thinks reasonable doubt means scientifically to the, 100% with no substitute, well, guess what? Maybe you'll get someone who's going to scream and yell and say, well, no, they don't have a body, so forget it. I'm done here. Now, that's part of the prosecutor's job, and I didn't see jury selection. So, again, that would be the most interesting thing to watch. How did they handle that? I mean, I'm assuming 90% of their jury selection would be, look, we don't have a body here, and we need to talk about this, and we need to talk about, evidence beyond a reasonable doubt and this and that. And are you, capable, if the evidence does to not sit there and say, yeah, but you don't have this.
Yeah. And it doesn't. Thank you for explaining that, because I was just wondering. I will look up those cases, but I was thinking
murder convictions happen without bodies is my
point. Course, there's of course, but
it happened in Manhattan, which is like, a very liberal jurisdiction, as you know. It can happen in Norfolk County.
Absolutely. And I know that they said the Walsh device internet searches, that these were the ones that like had populated that. I remember Bob Ward, he's one of like my favorite, other than Ted Daniel, Bob Ward, kicking it old school, obsessed with him. So they put up these ones specifically was best ways to dispose of a body, how long for someone to be missing for inheritance.
Well, there's your motive. See, I mean, there you go. I mean, this is not rocket science, people. What that guy's thinking about, instead of calling 911 and dealing with, oh my God, my kids, my wife, he's thinking about, if I can convince everyone that she's missing, I'm going to get paid. This is going to be a problem for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's as clear-cut motive as it generally gets, other than him being recorded saying, I hope to get insurance money by convincing people she's missing.
Is it okay? I don't know this, so I need you to. As a prior bad acts, would they not be allowed in, like regarding the art fraud, or will that come in? Will the door if the door gets opened? Would it come in?
Well, if the door gets open, anything can come in if somebody foolishly opens the door. My understanding, and again, I have not watched the proceedings.
Yeah.
My understanding is that the art fraud was out in terms of just being what lawyers call 404 evidence, which is just a prior bad act you just throw in there. However, it's unclear to me what the judge has ruled about cross-examining him in the, he says if it's already in, it's in.
I'm sorry, guys, I missed that. That is, wow. Okay. Well, then that shows his propensity for connery, right?
Well, you're not supposed to consider it for propensity. That's why a lot of times it gets excluded, because he's a criminal, so he probably did it again, and it becomes prejudicial. So, normally it's kept out unless there are reasons of a common scheme or plan, or it goes to the intent of something else. It gets complicated. But where it gets really interesting, again, is he's going to have to testify in this case, especially after that opening. I mean, he basically committed to it. And it would be, Brian Walsh is going to get up there and say, basically, trust me, people, like, I've got this story. In that situation, his credibility is now an issue, right? The whole trial essentially becomes a referendum on his credibility. As a practical sense, they've assumed the burden, not legally, and that's not appropriate, but let's be honest. The jury is going to do a litmus test on whether this guy is lying or not. And if we think he's lying, he's toast. Okay.
Yeah.
But the jury ought to be able to consider, in assessing his credibility, they ought to be aware of the fact that this guy has a history of committing fraud and deceit to benefit himself, i.e. the art fraud, right? So I would be stunned if that was not, and I don't know what the ruling was. So don't shoot the messenger. I'm not paying that close attention. But in the event he testifies, I would be stunned that a judge would not allow the prosecution to cross-examine him about something that goes to the heart of his honesty or lack thereof. I mean, the guy is literally convicted of fraud and lying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there is something to be said for seeing the investigation in this case, in my opinion, it feels as though it's a polar opposite from another high profile case and has the same exact like players, like ew, rinse and repeat, seeing Guarino, all of it is unbelievable, Mr. Bederow, when you look back at the death investigation of Officer John O'Keefe and the prosecution of Karen Reed and that investigation and how everything went, to then see these assholes actually do what looks like, I don't know, policing, the police work, the investigative work. So you knew how to do it. You just didn't. In other cases that we know and are aware of. How much is that a red flag to you?
Well, I think it's a real red flag, but if anything, it's a red flag to what the hell was going on in Canton on the other case. Karen's case remains to me one of one. I mean, it's just crazy how many coincidences of bad things in the investigation, or things they didn't do, or explanations that they have, or explanations that some of these witnesses have. I mean, it defies logic and common sense. And, they're capable of doing an investigation. Now, having said that, the investigation into Walsh is much simpler, right? I mean, she's missing. Okay. It's natural that they want to talk to the husband. They know he's a crook. Okay. They learn about her. They learn she has a boyfriend. And of course, on some level, you can agree or disagree to what extent he consented to a search of his devices, and look what's on them. I mean, and then, it doesn't take them long to connect the dots, get the surveillance video. So, Walsh, I laugh because I remember when the New York Post first covered this years ago. I gave them a comment. So this guy has to be as dumb as dirt, because it was about the searches, that he made on his kids' devices. And that from there, they know it's him. Right? There's no real issue. Whereas, there's so many more nuances in Karen, and so many other things that the cops just ignored.
Well, and then we do look at those Google searches, and you do see that, and again, of the consent and of chain of custody. Yes, there's issues, Lovey's. I'm not acknowledging that even in Walsh, of course, they're going to pick it apart, but there was a stark contrast in the ability to investigate appropriately in the Walsh case, and the lack of investigation in the Karen Reed case, in my opinion. So that's what I was meaning on an overall overarching theme. But it is wild that we had a Commonwealth, a Mass State Police, and Morrissey's office saying that 227 didn't happen, but all of these Google searches did. And that is what convicts, like we've said a million times, that defendants across the United States are convicted on Celebrite and Google searches every day. That is what it is used. But yet 227 was something that Celebrite needed to actually go back. We have Ian Whippen, who had said that there was that they actually changed. They had to update the system because of whom? Jennifer McCabe. Okay. And her and one dude in Austria 10 years ago also had a similar Google search, like that it was a problem and it didn't happen and whatever. It was like, we are doing mental gymnastics to attempt to make a Google search not be relevant, and yet it is used in every other forensic download and used as conviction or to acquit, I guess, if you had a Google search that said
Why?
I wasn't here, but in every other case, it's all used.
Well, that's why you have to throw all the bums out. They're intellectually dishonest, and
Mm.
Again, they're prosecutors. They're supposed to wear the white hat. Their interest is not in convicting any particular defendant. Their interest is in doing justice, whatever that means, in a case-by-case basis. And if they are intellectually dishonest case by case about the technology because they feel it helps them in this one case but harms them in another, then they're intellectually dishonest. They're not even consistent about what they're doing, and they're just telling on themselves. And the answer is you just throw them out. They need to go. But again, as it related to Karen's case, they twisted themselves into, logical pretzels, trying to justify anything and everything to discredit what, the defense alleged. Now, the reality is the Google searches were never fully solved. Maybe that'll happen in the civil case. We'll see, or civil cases, I guess, at this point. But, the fact that they're taking a different position in two different cases based upon whether it helps them or hurts them, just that speaks poorly of the authorities here and their lack of intellectual honesty. And if you have any doubt about a prosecutor's credibility or just being fundamentally fair, whatever that means, whatever happens in any particular case, then you have a crisis with your district attorney's office. And well, guess what? That's clearly the case in Norfolk.
Yeah, and that's why Deitch ain't easy, and that's not even how you say his last name. But Adam, is it Deutsch or Deitch?
I think it's Deitch, I think.
I like a Deitch. I'm calling him Mr. Deitch, so that's it. Vote everyone in Norfolk County, our friends. We support you, and change is imminent, and nothing changes if nothing changes. Michael Morrissey needs to be absolutely ejected from office. I don't believe, as we know, and Tim Bradel said about 2 weeks ago that he didn't believe because we had seen all the no fundraising. So, that this is likely the end of the road for him no matter what, but do not allow another cog in the wheel. Do not allow there to just be the same old boys club, or the corruption that we have seen could continue if it is not taken in a completely different direction. And if nothing else, Deitch has a platform and has run on ideas that include, but are not limited to, getting to the bottom of exactly what has happened in his county. He's taken extraordinary measures to do such, to actually make change and be that action that he wants to see in the world. When you're calling shit out in your commercials, or what are those, the campaign ads, you're doing that and you're saying it straight to everyone's face, calling it out for what it is. Haven't seen it, sorry, not something that is typically done. Usually other candidates will dance around it and say, no, and okay, I would think about, we want to make sure that everybody has a fair trial, and calling it out was, in my opinion, like top tier. And I really hope that he's the one that, if it's meant to be, it'll be. But if Norfolk County does want change, I think he's the candidate to go with.
I mean, he certainly has the chops. If you're a federal prosecutor and, the unique background of investigating basically the office that you're now seeking to take over, it raises some other interesting questions that if he wins, about potential conflicts or appearances of conflicts in terms of, what he wants to do. But, look, whoever replaces Morrissey, and I'm assuming it will be him, but even if it's the other candidate, who knows, or anyone who's going to announce in the next, who knows. But anyone who has their fingers in the Karen Reed Pye case or Birchmore, those messes, whether it be the state police, whether it be the IT people, whether it be the prosecutors, they're all going to be gone. They're all going to either leave or be told to get lost, like forthwith. I mean, that you just can't credibly have this office run on a platform of change and allow anyone who touched these horrible cases to stick around.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree. I haven't seen any updates actually on Birchmore, and I'll have to look into that because I was hoping to get one soon, or that we were going to be expecting one. Did you hear any? You haven't seen anything on that anywhere? No, not me either. Okay, so with that being said, next week will be interesting. I will want to continue to watch the Walsh case and his trial rather. And I think that the day he actually testifies, I'll probably do a reaction to the testimony. Cause like you said, he's been painted into a corner. There is no way if he had a 0.001% chance, you need to testify, right? It's back to zero. It's back to 0.000 if you don't. So, and
yeah,
and
I mean, you never have to. I mean, obviously there's no burden, but if you're going to say that, first of all, once the defense says she died an accidental death, well, you're committing to how she died. Well, how do you know that? You're going to know that by Brian Walsh saying she was lying there, not moving, just lying there like apparently normal and dead. There's no evidence that could come from other than, this poor mourning husband who found her and then tragically, chopped her into all these pieces. So yeah, no, he, as a practical sense, at this point, they are down the rabbit hole. The guy's testifying. Absolutely. I mean, 99.9% has to.
Can I tell you that, like, okay, this is psychotic, but like, is there not something that, like, when I look at Brian Walsh, he's always given me the ick. Like, immediately, first day on the news, I was like, ooh, bad juju. He's got a bad vibe. Like, it is what it is. Then to find out about what he did to his father, that like all of his family and the money, and then the art fraud. And I'm thinking, like, I can empathize so much with Anna trying to like be there to support. And then she's like, no, I gotta go, tuck and roll. I'm pressing eject, get me the F out of here. She had her own money. She had her own portfolios. She was such a hardworking career woman. And you just look at this from the outside, and I could see him thinking, okay, that he's going to knock it out of the park. He has such hubris about him that, like, some people would be a little scared, right? You'd be like, okay, shit, if I mess this up, like, this is my entire life. This is a wrap. My children, think about something bigger than yourself. But that inability for him to look inward or to see anything, he's so, like, even when I've heard him put in his pleas, he's like, oh, he sounds like, it's wild to me to see him. And I'm like, this motherfucker thinks that he's going to get up there and he's going to be able to spin at least one of the jurors' heads. And I think that is a huge miscalculation on his part.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he's also, he appears to be a narcissistic psychopath. So naturally he thinks he's winning and he's going to schmooze the jury with his charm, and I have an explanation.
All makes sense. All makes sense. Follow me.
Yeah, I mean,
my dumbass would, though. See, here's the thing. Okay, so maybe be a little scared then. Okay, and it's not my dumbass, but listen, I have been tricked in my life a time or two by people that were not, like, above board that I thought that they were. And they could have told me the craziest shit. Like, and then looking back on it afterwards, I was like, oh, that was absolutely a lie. And I didn't like see it at the time until hindsight afterwards. So I just hope that whoever that person is in that jury, whatever they get there, that they're like, okay, let's walk you through it. Because some people that I think maybe feel deeply for others could get lost in the sauce versus, which this one is difficult. I'm not saying that clearly most people would be able to see through it, but there could just be, all you need is one to hold it up. And if one person is like, well, he says one thing that sticks in their mind that they're like, I don't know, I just can't get over it, that could be it.
I don't know, again, the full facts, but his art fraud conviction, did he plead guilty or get convicted after trial?
I think he pled in that. Oh, that's a lie. I just made it up. I feel like he pled, but I remember he had the ankle monitor for it. And somebody, Lovies, do you remember?
The
Do you
ankle
remember?
monitor condition of release.
That would have been either. Yeah, he pled. He did plead.
I mean, we'll see if he opens up a door. You know, a lot of times these guys, they get carried away and they're going to want to say, oh, when I do something, I plead guilty. I pled guilty to disposing of her body. I pled guilty to art fraud. I mean, if the art fraud comes in,
and it is,
yeah, he's going to try that. That's another one of these kind of, you know, plays that you'll.
When I get caught, I take accountability is what he's going to try to say.
Right. I would admit it if I did it, and I have a documented history of doing that.
Okay. Yeah, noted. That's true. All right. So that will be the most insightful, and the must-watch TV will be, you know, if and when, which I think he will testify.
No, that will be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Then I wanted to bop into how this week was. I know that it was changed, and you guys had Zoom, and it was supposed to be an in-person. I had the day off. Why? I took PTO. Let's not make it weird, but you know, I was trying to be there to support. And then come to find out, I'm supporting you on the Zoom link. Okay. And there is a moment. I want your take. Everything that is public, we know that we can discuss, but I had some highlight reels for myself from this Zoom hearing. And where do you stand, or how did you feel at the end of it, Mr. Bederow? Or going in, were you annoyed maybe, or were you just there to, as you say, we go where we're sent?
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? We plan on arguing. We get told it's going to be a status conference, which I understand from the judge's perspective. Is it annoying to get papers filed late without notice? Yeah, that's annoying. But ultimately, we have a new court date. We have the oral argument. The oral argument is bifurcated. That's what we really wanted. You know, to focus on the disqualification issue before anything else. And, you know, both sides and the court agree that that's appropriate. So that's good. And so whatever, we'll go back. We'll go to Boston instead of Dedham, which, you know, for me personally, much prefer that.
Yeah.
You know, hang out in the big city. That's always, it's kind of more I like that better for a lot of reasons. It's more familiar with what we do. It's fine. You know, we have a specially assigned judge. He's paying attention clearly. And we have a new date. We go, we argue, and whatever. I mean, it's what we do.
Absolutely. What new judge, who dis? What did we, for the first time, for me seeing him, what was his name again, Mr. Bederow? I'm sorry. I can't think of the judge's name. Bellasos, yeah. I liked him. I almost, you know, couple of choices that I was like, oh, why are you telling me that you're leaning? Like, or I was like, are you telling me you're leaning certain ways, but you're not, whatever. But generally overall, very up to date. I felt that he was aware of everything, which is a lot to take on. And they have kicked this case down the road for so many times at this point. That's egregious. And there is like an unbelievable amount to be put on any judge, especially ones that were being rotated in and out of it. Ironic that at this point now we're going to get him, but whatever, we will not look a gift horse in the mouth in that aspect of at least having the consistency. But like, it's always been a look for general fairness. That's always what you guys are looking for. Not better treatment, not worse treatment. Just keep it, you know, above board and even with how there should be treatment and fairness on both sides. Are you seeing like, were you getting that vibe from that first Zoom too?
Anyone who watched could only interpret that. I don't know how anyone could think anything of it. You know, any possible conflicts are thrown out there. That's what you expect. It just seemed like an ordinary garden variety status conference, which is what you want. These cases have to proceed, things are done. And lawyers also look at it a lot differently than the people on Twitter and the Twitter lawyers and whatever who look at it. They think every piece of paper that is filed or every comment that is made at a proceeding is some kind of sick burn or win or loss as it matters to the overall outcome of the case. And I get it. People are really like into that. That's not in the real world how lawyers look at it. This was a garden variety housekeeping appearance. And there are no wins or losses from that. Or, when motions get filed or they get granted or denied as part of the overall context, unless they're dispositive to the outcome of the case or substantial and evidence being suppressed or whatever, it's all part of the back and forth. Every single word or paper that is filed is not a big win or big loss. I mean, that's right. At the Twitter law school it is, but in the real world, that was a very ordinary appearance.
Yeah. Okay, so it tickled me, and I have to say it. I said it to you before, but so when
there are funny moments and funny things. I get it, but yeah, in the grand scheme of, oh my God, this is huge or not? No, it's not.
Right. Your thoughts with the Cosgrove. We'll go first. Still, you guys not receiving the discovery. Still, him mentioning and him being like, the check's in the mail. He said the check was in the mail. Oh.
The discovery problem, and this is kind of on a macro level, not so much hearing, is it's December of 2025, and discovery shows up here, there, everywhere, sporadically, months later, from a freedom of information request, from Twitter, from former prosecution witnesses who have stuff that the DA has and doesn't disclose. And so the point becomes, you can't have any confidence that you have it all. And the system only functions on the prosecutor disclosing what they have to disclose. And what was said in court the other day, and this is the problem, was, I only got it from Mr. Mello the other week. That's entirely unacceptable, okay? The prosecutor, the former prosecutor, the state police, anyone else in the DA's office, they're all the Commonwealth, okay? They are responsible for disclosing evidence. And the fact that Mello keeps some of it at home or in his office or decides to turn it over late, to us, that's an unsatisfactory answer. And that's why I think what was said was, and it was even in one of the briefs we filed, go send somebody over there and take everything. Go through it and turn it over. Don't rely on him. He's not reliable. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. Yeah. But the larger point is it's not individuals that matter. It's the Commonwealth's obligation. And whenever you have a prosecutor or a cop saying, it ain't me, that legally is of no significance. Okay. Right. That may be personally, hey man, don't yell at me. But as a legal matter to the government's obligation to disclose evidence, that's not an answer. Okay. It is in your possession, and your does not mean Ken Mello, Mr. Cosgrove, someone in the state police. Yours means the Commonwealth's. And they seem to have a fundamental misunderstanding of that. And they have it in this case. They had it in Karen's case with the video that, Proctor had stuffed in his back pocket, according to him, for 2 years, that, Adam Lally had no idea about. That's not an answer legally. That's just not an answer. It doesn't work that way. You have the obligation to disclose evidence. And, they have a documented history in that office of not doing it. You saw with Lally testifying in that other case about the search warrants, that they don't turn over for years. Well, Proctor had it. I didn't have it. This is the fundamental problem with that office. They don't understand, or they do understand, but they have no system in place to honor their obligations, as opposed to having piecemeal this person, that person. And that is why the office, as currently constituted, is not reliable. And the position that was being articulated to the judge when he says, does anyone have any discovery problems? The answer is we do, because we have. How do we know whether this is everything? I mean, when we're getting from a third party, from a Freedom of Information Act request, documents that are prepared in which Tully, Buchanan, and Proctor are emailing reports about, witness harassment of the McCabe's and Alberts related to a client, and we just don't get it in discovery, but the DA's office is turning it over in a Freedom of Information request by a lawyer from 1,000 miles away who has no skin in the game. Well, that's kind of messed up. That's a problem.
Huge.
There was even reference to certain other evidence as well. Look, when there's testimony, and there is, that a critical witness in a case says, I'm being harassed and I'm getting all these messages of this harassment, and I've given it to the prosecutor. I gave it to whoever. And again, the prosecutor means the Commonwealth. That can be the police, that can be a paralegal, that can be the victim witness advocate. They're all on the prosecution team, okay, under Rule 14 and Brady and all of this. And if that witness is under oath saying it exists and I turned it over, and it's evidence of witness intimidation in a case in which you represent a client who's accused of witness intimidation for that, where is it? We don't have it, if it exists. Now, if the testimony is not accurate, well, we need to know that too, because that's obviously very significant. But the macro point was, there's just no confidence that we have everything, because it's just drips and draps of this, that. I mean, what was stated on the record was, I'm turning over a grand jury exhibit from the grand jury from late 2023 in December of 2 years later in 2025.
Right.
I didn't know. And, the former now dismissed prosecutor had it. I mean, what the hell is that?
Yeah. And the lack of the urgent, this is where it doesn't make sense, because like you're saying, in what I've gathered is that in other counties, in other states, in other jurisdictions, this matters. This matters on such a fundamental fairness and
I think it matters in front of this judge. So
good.
When it was noted, and again, this is the right response by a judge, I get it. When it was noted that, as just part of a more being exasperated than anything else, why don't you go get the evidence from Mello instead of relying on him? Why don't you go affirmatively get it, because it's your obligation? And the judge said, well, I'm not going to order them to do that. By the way, that's appropriate. The judge is not literally, doesn't have to be so hands-on to tell them what to do. But what he said, the most important part was, you have an obligation, you're on notice, you better comply with it. If you don't, there can be sanctions. That's all. And by the way, that's not breaking news. That's not some big reveal. That's the law. But it's never been stated by anyone ever dealing with this case, or it's never been demonstrated to matter. So it's nice to hear, as at an initial status conference, a recognition that you're on notice of this discovery, which, by the way, is the purpose of what those crayon letters are. That's to put the prosecution on notice that you have things that we want, and if you don't turn it over, there will be sanctions. Again, the real lawyers understand that. The Twitter lawyers, not so much.
Yeah,
there's a long game to this process.
Yeah, that's why we trust the real lawyers, versus Twitter University of law school, right? So, with that being said, another thing that I found interesting was motion to dismiss, where Bredel said, or the judge said, in the event that this moves forward, right? And that it's not dismissed. In the event that this case does move forward to trial, you know, we want to get, I don't know what he was asking Cosgrove and you guys specifically, but
A date is what he was asking.
oh, he's just asking for the date there. Okay. Well, we need a date. Oh yeah. And then, but Tim Bradel said, basically he said, let him cook. Okay. Let us cook here, because why? We still have, you know, cards that we're like playing here, and that we are respectfully not willing to have to come to that conclusion when that hasn't been determined yet, right?
Well,
like
it's very simple. What the judge is talking about, there are 2 indictments. There are the ones from 2023.
Yep.
And you know, there is, you know, the what some people colloquially call window intimidation, whatever.
Yep.
We know what we're talking about. And that case occurred in March of,
Right.
I remember I was actually in Boston when that crazy, not there, by the way. Plenty of other interesting people who could be witnesses in that case, but not me. I wasn't there. But I was local. And that case was indicted, I don't know, a couple of months later. And the check in the mail is the grand jury in that case. So we still don't have it. So the point is, we don't assume the grand jury in that case was done properly. Now, why would we? I know how the grand jury was conducted in the 2023 case. It was a disgrace, and we'll deal with that perhaps at an oral argument down the line.
Mhm.
But not knowing how that grand jury went in the 2025 case, there may be a motion to dismiss on for any number of reasons. It could be that they impaired the integrity of the grand jury proceeding.
Mhm.
I'm not going to assume that's the case. That grand jury was conducted by Cosgrove, not Mello, and you know, that's apples and oranges. I tend to believe that Cosgrove knows the law in the grand jury and what you can do and what you can't do. So, but I mean, I haven't seen the minutes, but I don't assume that he would do the things that occurred in the 2023 indictments, which I've never seen in my life any prosecutor ever do. It just sheer insanity. But there may be a lack of proof, you know, in terms of the conduct itself, that there may be lack of a prima facie case to even support an indictment. I don't know. I don't know what these people said. I don't know what, you know, Chris and Colin Albert said about how intimidated they were by getting a Ring camera notification of, you know, what appear to be a couple of clowns clowning around outside the window after maybe having a couple, you know, tilting their elbows a little bit, and how that turns into proof of their intent was to make you not testify or be intimidated. Again, we have to wait and see. So as he said, you know, the cake is not baked, meaning we're not ready. We have no opinion, because there may very well be significant motion practice on that case that is on a different level than, you know, what's going on with the 2023 case. So it's just premature. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much for the 2025 case that I would look forward to it coming into light at some point, you know, in the future. And what they said was, it would look more, Mr. Bradel said that he has some murder, I believe, trials coming up in October of 2026. So he said that it would have to be November of 26. Is that correct? That, like, if it were to go to trial.
For now, but let's also, you know, bear in mind, we all have schedules. We all have cases that, you know, I mean, I have my own, like, triple homicide case in the Bronx, which is going to have to be tried who knows when. And it's a psychiatric case, which those can go, you know, battle of the experts, the doctors, and when is that going to get calendared? And, you know, I'm not sure a judge in the Bronx wants to hear about, you know, a window intimidation case in Massachusetts when there's a guy who's charged with first-degree murder, you know, locked up, you know, in Rikers Island facing life without parole. You know, that tends to take priority.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? But, you know, we'll see. And we'll have to ultimately see where these go. And we also have to see what happens with the disqualification motion on the 2023 case, because as you heard, this was on Zoom. There's apparently a lack of an interest in prosecuting that if there's a disqualification on the first case. So we'll see.
Oh, when is the next court date? I forgot.
January, in person in Boston.
123 Suffolk County, right?
Was it like Pemberton Square? Downtown. Yeah. Big city.
Yep, getting that big city. So is there anything that happened with Cosgrove? Because I don't know, maybe you remember this, but I was maybe the one that said that I'm not 100% sure that we are going to actually get any kind of answer from the Commonwealth in a timely fashion. And Robert, specially appointed prosecutor Robert Cosgrove, is an interesting character. I am always going to try to be and continue to be as respectful with him as I possibly can. He, like you said, is not Ken Mello. He is not, I feel as though maybe just a little bit older, and maybe just like, I don't know if he needs his secretary is not working well, giving him like, this is the date and it's not a suggestion. It's actually supposed to be due, my friend. Maybe he needs a little Google. He needs an Alexa to help him out. Okay. But other than that, his lack of, and I don't know if is it lack of candor? No, it's just an inability to adhere to what he is supposed to, that would not be accepted by the defense in any case. It is like charted territory to continue to see him and to see this case continue to get kicked down the road. That's all I'm saying with that. But how did you feel about Cosgrove yesterday? Or the other day? And then he did mention, what was something that, in his actual document that his filing, he said basically Saint Turtle Boy. And I wanted to get your idea on that, when he was making a comparison of Brother Counsel put it up, and I was like, everyone went with Saint Turtle Boy for Robert Cosgrove's filing. So I just thought that was a hoot, because he has weird ass sayings and he says them all the time.
I like him. I'm not gonna say anything other than this. Have we thrown some sharp elbows back and forth in papers flying back and forth? Yes. But, I practice in New York. That's what we do. You sharpen your elbows every day. It's not personal. I don't take it personal. I don't think he takes it personal. I don't agree with a lot of what he said. Some of those expressions I think are ridiculous and absurd. Some of them make me laugh.
Yeah.
I appreciated the former judge calling me a judge, because I have decreed, certain things. That doesn't offend me. I think it's funny. I think, some of the stream of consciousness, maybe from the brain, shouldn't end up on paper, but whatever. It's fine. You battle between the lines. He's advocating a position. We're advocating a position. We don't agree. It's getting a little back and forth, perhaps in the filings, but we're advocating positions that we both feel strongly about. It's not personal.
Right.
I just think he's wrong about a lot. Okay. And he clearly has a view that we don't agree with. We think he has one of the most obvious conflicts of interest that you will ever see in your life. He clearly disagrees. So we'll fight about it. That's what, when the battle is over, we'll put our swords down. I don't have strong personal feelings against him. I just think he's wrong on a lot of what he's advocating. Quoting Casablanca, probably not what I would do. Referencing, using the internet to send text messages sounds a little old-fashioned, perhaps. But we listen, none of it is personal. If we have a complaint, you're not turning over discovery. We said it the other day, go get it, turn it over. Well, but I'm not going to sit here and criticize him personally. He's the prosecutor for now. And it is what it is.
Thoughts on, okay, so now this is where the rubber meets the road for me, is when you say he's wrong, right? Like, or we think he's wrong, right? No, I think he's wrong as well, because that's just my opinion on this. And legally speaking, that there has never been a more recognizable actual conflict of interest that I can think or that I've seen.
Well,
but
it's stunning for two reasons. Number one, it doesn't matter what you think about the merits of the lawsuit that was filed against him. The fact of the matter is that a witness, a possible witness, frankly, a possible witness for both sides, depending on various things, has sued the prosecutor on the case for allegedly causing, again, allegedly, I have no opinion on, doesn't matter what I think about the merits of the lawsuit, right? The allegation is that you intentionally harmed me during the prosecution and investigation of this case. But they're also missing another important part here. Everybody seems to be missing and leaving out the third leg of this. That's the lead investigator, who is a civil co-defendant of the prosecutor. The witness and the co-defendant from the state police have a very serious dispute about the integrity of records in this case and all kinds of things. Okay, their credibility is going to be at issue in the case. They're going to attack each other. We can't have a situation where the person who is going to referee that dispute from the prosecution side of the room is a co-defendant who naturally is going to be favoring the credibility of his co-defendant. Okay, the problem is this: it is in the interest of the Commonwealth to do justice, not to convict Aidan Carney, not to get him. If justice is convicting a defendant, so be it. But it is in the interest, the Commonwealth is a representative of the people. Okay, that's why they're called the Commonwealth. That's why in New York, in California, they're called the people. It's you, all of you. You're the client, basically, of the DA's office or the special prosecutor. Their interest is to do justice. That's fine. At this point, it is in the prosecutor, the individual's interest, to discredit the witness who has embarrassed him with this lawsuit. It is in the interest, the personal interest of the lead detective, to have her discredited as well. And you can't have these conflicting interests and the public wondering, well, are you going down this line for yourself, or is that, in the Commonwealth's interest? I mean, if, this witness is also alleging that other prosecution witnesses have done things that she's aware of that are discrediting to them. Are they going to investigate that? Or are they just going to assume it's not true and attack the reporting witness? Well, is that because the Commonwealth's interest is to do that? Or is that the personal interest of the prosecutor to do that? This is the conflict. It's everywhere. And you have to recognize, and look, there'll be more writing about this down the line. This is a case where the DA's office already had to remove itself because of a conflict of interest. Okay?
yes,
They brought in a special prosecutor, Ken Mello, who had to be removed from one case because he made himself a witness. He made himself a witness in this case as well, but they finally relieved him on his own before that got litigated. Now, the new special prosecutor has been sued alongside the lead detective, right?
right?
At some point, the public can't tolerate this,
No.
okay? The public has a right to a fair and impartial prosecution. The criminal defendant has a right to a fair and impartial prosecution. And you can't assume that the individual prosecutor and the Commonwealth's interests are aligned perfectly. And the problem is it's intertwined, it's incestuous. And the most stunning part of it is most prosecutors, I think, would say, I'm out of here. I want nothing, like, what's the point?
Right.
Now that's, and again, any individual can choose to do whatever they want. But that's unique in this situation, is the clutching and grabbing onto this rather than just recognizing it's probably not the right case for me to handle.
Right. Well, and that was my question, is that, like, so I'm looking at this from your perspective. Also, I'm trying to see it from all sides of being like, okay, so where does Cosgrove see that this is not, or when he is responding, and I'm wondering,
well,
is he effing, is he trolling? Like, I like, because I'm like, I don't think he's that. I don't think he's that much.
No, I'm not going to disparage his motives. And I even said in my papers that it's commendable that he wants to do it, like stay involved in a case like this. I don't know why, but you're a better person than me for wanting to, like, prosecute this, given that you've been sued, whatever. But I'm not going to question his motive for that. But there is a personal interest that differs from the Commonwealth. It does. And it's
Fundamentally.
it is too messy. It's too messy.
Yeah, it is. It's all messy. And there has, and we'll all figure it out. I think
you have to also bear in mind, and this will come out in perhaps in more motion papers, but if you play this out to its logical and, I would suggest, absurd conclusion, and we're putting the court on notice, like, this is going to be a problem. And ultimately, the court will decide what to do. And if this blows up in the middle of trial, and then there's a mistrial, well, that's going to be the DA's fault, and we walk away. But the co-defendant is a critical witness in the case. There's no dispute there. You can argue all you want over the one suing them,
right?
Who I suggest is a likely witness for a lot of reasons. But at some point, it goes to the credibility of the plaintiff in that lawsuit and the co-defendant state police officer that there is a lawsuit. And the jury's going to know that. And the jury has every right to know that the prosecutor who is defending Tully is a co-defendant. And maybe that's why he's defending that and not believing Gaetani.
Right.
Now, the prosecutor's position may be, well, I agree with but the jury has a right to know that. Who in their right mind, as a prosecutor, says, sign me up for that? No. Where we're going to be pointing at him saying, you're suing that guy, right? This guy standing right there. The guy who's cross-examining you is a defendant in that lawsuit. Now, they're going to argue that can't come in. It absolutely is going to come in, because if he's the one questioning and vouching for Tully's credibility and attacking her, the jury needs to know why.
Right.
Now, the real answer is this. The jury shouldn't know any of this, because the man should be removed from the case because he has a conflict of interest.
All roads lead back to that, right? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? He should not be on this case.
Right. And that's not a fault of his own. I mean,
no.
And you have to also recognize, whether the lawsuit gets dismissed or whether he has immunity, which is a real issue, but that's not, I could care less. That doesn't solve the problem. There is a natural bias. She came after him. Okay, filed papers, public papers accusing him of misconduct. There is a natural bias, and as a human being, it is in his personal interest to say, she's full of crap. That's a natural instinct for somebody who says, I'm being falsely sued, if that's the position. So the conflicts here, as we wrote in the last submission, they're suffocating.
Absolutely. I think that it will all come out in the wash. We know that. And there has to be a choice made. I think clearly the court will decide, but the choice will be, are we going to have this be a shit show now or later? Because no matter what, the interwoven connectivity of these players and this web is mind-blowing, right? And do you want it to go, is it going to be an hour later situation, basically?
Well, that's a big thing, though. See, here's the thing. This is a motion for disqualification that is being made on notice pre-trial. We are alerting the conflicted prosecutor and the court. There is a huge difference in doing that pre-trial and then having a smart lawyer on appeal say there was a conflict and this conviction should be thrown out. Because if you look at the law, when you do it on appeal, you have to establish actual prejudice, okay? That I got screwed because of this. When you do it pre-trial like this, and I'm talking general conflicts, there is virtually no case law, one similar that you'll read about later when we, about a prosecutor having a conflict by being sued. It just doesn't happen during the pendency of a case. It's one federal case from like 40 years ago. We'll talk about that some other time.
Okay.
The point is, when you're talking about a pretrial notice of a conflict, the appearance of a conflict comes into play. And what also matters, again, is the impact on the public's confidence in a prosecution. In a prosecution which is based on witness intimidation for an acquitted case, probably twice, I might add, of witnesses who are now themselves being sued for civil rights, conspiring to violate civil rights with the state police, right? They've been sued.
Yes.
That's just a fact.
Facts.
You know, the fact that the prosecutor has been sued, Tully has been sued by Karen Reed and Gaetani. I mean, this is all going on.
If you hear that, say that sentence again.
Tully has been sued by Karen Reed and Gaetani for separate incidents and acts in separate cases.
Oh.
And this entire case involves a DA's office that recused itself, hired a special prosecutor who got kicked off the case because he made himself a witness, withdrew from the other case, and now the other special prosecutor has been sued. So you wonder how this will look to the public if this goes on in this context.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Yeah, if it wasn't so serious, it would be like it would be like, but it would be comical. Do you know what I mean? Like you look there and you're like, this is bullshit. Like this is so it is so absurd. It is so out of touch, out of like no one could have written this, right? Nobody, no writers room could have made this up as some sort of fiction. It is bananas.
You have to understand every single witness. No, that's not accurate. Virtually all who testifies, I think it was said there are 6 or 7 people that ostensibly would testify at a witness intimidation trial. There are 2 that might not be the case. Every other one of them and 3 members of the state police who testify will all be civil defendants, either being sued by Karen Reed and or Lindsay. And in Tully's case, he gets the double whammy, sued by both. And the prosecutor in our case. In other words, when our case, if it were to go to trial, Jennifer McCabe will be a civil defendant and perhaps a plaintiff, who knows? which, by the way, would give them a motive also to have
Yeah.
bias against him. I'm not sure that's a great thing. If you're interested in the criminal case, I'm not so sure that's a great thing. She will be a civil defendant. Her husband will be a civil defendant. Like Brian Albert, civil defendant. Proctor, civil defendant. Tully, civil defendant twice over. Mr. Cosgrove, civil defendant. This is not the case that this should be happening. And we haven't even gotten to the issue of the obvious conflict that the state police have in prosecuting our case, which has just been ignored by everyone for the last 2 years. They had the exact same conflict the Norfolk DA's office had in 2023, and they just shrugged their shoulders and said, whatever, we'll handle
still
it.
investigate it.
We got it.
Yeah.
We'll just arrest them. Who cares? What's the difference?
Don't make it weird. Yeah. It doesn't, no matter how many times that we talk about it, and of course there's different, as many things come forward and are brought to light in the public, as that's all we speak about. It's like, it's chilling. It is incestuous. I hate to say it, but like, it is so incestuous that everything, like this web has been tangled and deceitful and corrupt and ugly since the charges and since the inception of this case, in my opinion. Okay. Or the first in 2023, it has all been an abuse of power, an attempt to silence, and now seeing the fight back that is in Aiden, is in you, Mr. Bederow, is in Mr. Bradel, and the ability to keep bringing light to what really happened and what needs to happen, or what is in the best interest, or what is in the interest of justice. That's all that the Commonwealth should have ever been going for. And it never was that, in my humble opinion. This was never about the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This was never about a statute and actual committing of a crime. It was always a weaponization, and it was always in order to silence a dissenting opinion, to silence another human that is trying to just do and tell the truth of what's happening.
When you have someone who is very loud and out there and not a shrinking violet and has a microphone and brings attention to stuff, and some would say in a very obnoxious way, some would say that, and a lot of people don't like, right? It is what it is. A lot of people don't like it. And then it starts bringing light to a very significant criminal case that calls into question police corruption, particularly the state police and the DA's office. And those are the very people, the state police, who say, we're going after this guy. The conflict was missed in this case in the summer of 2023. Never should Tully and his band of whatever they are been the people investigating this. Those were the witnesses and the people who not only were investigating the Reed case, but are the ones who are being accused of corruption. Okay. And only in Kafka and Orwell novels does this kind of thing happen. It's not supposed to happen in the real world. In the event that you wanted to go after somebody sincerely by saying, I think that this person's intimidating witnesses, you don't have the people that he's attacking do it. You outsource it. By outsource it, I don't mean outsource it to online Twitter trolls running lobbies. I mean running, out to other agencies. And they make the call whether they want to get into this or not. And to some extent, they did go to the AG, and the AG said, we're not doing it. We're not getting involved.
You don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
And to allow the very same state police who are in the bullseye of the Reed case and who now are all being sued to be the ones who are running point on this investigation is a mistake. And there are so many red flags, and these are the same people who are using your money, not locking up, that's colloquial term, locking up people for throwing ducks on the ground. Okay. This is craziness. This is not what they should be doing, but it's what they did. And it's where we are now. And the conflicts have existed since 2023 with the police. They've existed with the DA's office, who supposedly relieved itself from this. And it exists today for an entirely different reason, because a witness has gone after a prosecutor who understandably thinks she's full of crap. I get it. And you can tell when you read the papers that are submitted, they're kind of vitriolic against her, but that only exhibits the bias. That's personal. That's not how prosecutors write. That's how an individual is pissed off. Right?
Yeah.
And I'd be pissed off too if I got sued as a prosecutor for, allegedly doing what they did. And your position is I didn't do it. And if I did, it's not actionable anyway. But when you look at some of the responses, it reads of personal animus rather than the Commonwealth taking a sober position of why this is not a conflict. It's just proving our point, why there's a conflict.
Again and again and again, it proves your point, in my opinion. And yeah, with that being said, Mr. Bederow, we have been together for an hour and 40 minutes. And today I am going to be going to my event. I have a ho event at 3:00 down in Quincy. It's going to be me and 50 of my lovies will be there. And it is going to be fun. I was hoping you'd be there, but you're home, so you couldn't be there. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I'm back. So have fun. I'm sure you'll have fun. It's a Patriots free Sunday today. It's like, what do we do?
It is a Patriots free.
Yeah.
So what are you doing this afternoon?
Probably watching Red Zone.
Love it.
Maybe do a little food shopping, get some, dinner stuff for the week, and waiting for the daughter to come home from Philadelphia. So, see her and, that kind of stuff.
Well, as usual, a Sunday service with Mr. Bederow. Nothing better to start your week's lovies. Okay. This is I don't know. It just makes my week every week. I feel like I'm energized. I feel like I'm ready to go kick down a door. Okay. Of corruption. Truth, justice. Am I in the Justice League? No. Okay. Shut up, Kim. Just sit back, hang out with Mr. Bederow. He's got the hoodie collection of a king. Who are the Sun Devils? Are they a college team?
Well, that's Arizona State. Today's the day that, unfortunately for them, they're like the officially sponsored team of the garbage Sun Bowl, where once again, ASU is playing in the Sun Bowl, because who doesn't want to play in a meaningless bowl game in beautiful El Paso, Texas?
I don't even know what any of those words meant together. Okay.
Means playing a meaningless, the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. I shit you not. That's the game they're playing in. If you win, you get showered with cornflakes. I mean,
woo!
We had high aspirations for being in the, national championship. Although in my house, it's getting a little hot and contentious because, we have an Indiana graduate here, and Indiana is #1 and undefeated, and probably the biggest shocking, never before happened in college football. And we have a young man who lives here who is a very, very diehard Ohio State fan who got stunned last night by said Indiana because their kicker couldn't hit a chip shot field goal. And I haven't seen anyone this morning, and I'm curious to know how that's going to go, because that was a surprising result. Let's just say that.
A little shock and awe, huh?
Indiana being undefeated and the #1 team in the country at the end of the regular season has to be the most stunning, improbable result in college sports that I can ever think of. I think they are historically the single most worst college football team in America in terms of wins and losses.
Yeah. No, what Kit Kat, who is this saying to me? Somebody is just saying the address. I sent out the address, lovies. If you did not get an address for the event and you have it's there's no more availability. But if you didn't get an email from me, I will please email me at Legal Nurse Kim. Wait, is that my email address? Yeah, Legal Nurse Kim at Gmail. And I will be sure to get that over to you. But I did it to everybody who I thought I did, that I had sent it out. And it again is today at 3:00. All right, Mr. Bederow, thank you for being you. You are the best to ever do it. You are absolutely my Sunday sermon preacher who provides all of the guidance that we need for our week. And everybody appreciates you as our emotional support attorney.
Not everyone. A lot. Not everyone. I
To
see.
90. Listen, whoever doesn't, they're
whatever.
not ew. Okay. Like if you don't get it, you don't get it.
But everyone, laugh at that stuff with all that crap that goes on. Just laugh and dismiss. Move on.
Go
Live
touch
your-
grass.
Live your life outside of the internet. My God.
Absolutely. Now let us all go live our lives off of the internet. Good night. Have a great day. Bye-bye. All right, lovies. We did it. He's the best. I don't know why he keeps showing up here on Sundays, but I will too until the end of time. I hope you have the best day. If you're going to see me later on, stop it. I'll be there. Okay. What are we doing? Are we going to have a blast? Yes. 3 to 6, Quincy. And if not, then I will be streaming. Let's do a Talk Shit Tuesday. Sound good? All right. I love your faces. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, great job on the news.
Thank you.
We will, Courtney and I will share what happened when we went to dinner last night, Sunday dinner, coming up. And as